Hi, Andrew Telegdi. And you are? Very nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you. What is your name? How are you doing? Me, Stephen? Oh, okay. Your name? Marian. Very nice to meet you. You're knitting me a sweater? Yeah. Well, soon the harbor winter will be over, and then I'll go golfing, but next winter will happen. Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Maureen Gore.
Ah, very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Oh, you get in there. When? What channel?
Ladies,
CPAC.
my name's Andrew Telegdi. I won't interrupt your
Never heard of it.
high stakes game. It's nice meeting you. Very nice to meet you.
Trying to get him elected back.
Well, he was a good man.
Pardon?
He's a good man.
That's right. Yeah, we've got to get the good man back in there.
Because I have.
Oh, okay. So what we need is maybe we can. Yeah. Some things are much more important than money. Much more important than money. You know, that's much more important than money. You know, having it work.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Stardust ticket if you
Okay. Come and talk with you, and for you sharing your family room with me. And let me first of all say that beside me is Dr. Prakash Ahuja, and you're not going to believe him, but he's 75 years young, and he still works, and he's a good friend of mine because when I go golfing, I take him along with me, because just in case something is happening to me. So I'm not bringing it for any of you. I bring him along just in case something happens to me, then I got my good golf partner next to me. And so anyway, I'm really appreciative that he came along. And also with me is Jonathan English, and he's my assistant during the campaign. He's the campaign aide. And you might know his father, Dr. John English, who is an author and a history professor, and he wrote the recent book on Pierre Elliott Trudeau. But he also wrote a biography on somebody else that you would all know, Lester B. Pearson. And Joe Kovac, he's a fellow Hungarian. As many of you might know, I came from Hungary in 1957 as a refugee after the Hungarian Revolution. And he is here taking pictures for my social media, and on the website that appears, and also my social media site. So he is with me as well. Now, I want to thank Dave and Pat for organizing this, and let you know that this is going to be playing on CPAC at some point. CPAC television, the one that does the parliamentary channel, and they broadcast the House of Commons. And we will let you know when this is going to be on, so you can watch it. But let me get back to Lester B. Pearson. And Mr. Pearson had a minority government from 1963 to 1968, 5 years. His term as Prime Minister was shorter than the present Prime Minister, Stephen Harper. Now, Mr. Pearson, with other parties, to bring us the Canadian flag, to bring us universal health care in the country, to bring us Canada pension and guaranteed income supplement, you know, which is the cornerstone of our social programs. And he really believed in it. But he accomplished a lot of big things for Canadians working in a minority situation, working in cooperation with other parties in the House of Commons. And that is the way that things should be. Now, you might recall that Mr. Pearson would be going at it with John Diefenbaker, because John Diefenbaker was in the opposition. And he had Tommy Douglas over leading the NDP. But they cooperatively worked in a minority parliament to bring very important legislation before the House and make Canada a better place. Now, Mr. Pearson was also a recipient of a Nobel Peace Prize for inventing the Blue Beret peacekeeping in the United Nations. And he got his Peace Prize because of what he did to help the Middle East crisis. And I stress it again because he goes back to the very strong period of the Liberal Party when these important programs were established. But I can't stress enough how important it is to understand that he could work in a minority government and he could establish very important legislation for Canadians. Now, Mr. Pearson did not attack his political opponents the way Mr. Harper does. You must have seen the ads where you have the Prime Minister is sponsoring ads that attack personally Mr. Michael Ignatieff and attacks not only him in a personal level, but attacks his family. And he does the same to Gilles Duceppe for the Bloc and Jack Layton for the NDP. And this is wrong. You know, in Canada, no other segment of Canadian life is it acceptable for somebody to do those kind of personal attacks. And it's not acceptable in any part of Canadian life. It should not be acceptable at the level of the Prime Minister. Now, this election is a very important one. The Conservatives have issues that differ much from the Liberals. And the main issues are the Conservatives want to spend $30 billion on stealth fighter jets. You know, that's a lot of money. That's the biggest purchase of military equipment ever. And that equipment is on tender, it is unproven, and for the most part is not necessary. We need aircraft that can patrol the north. We need aircraft that have 2 engines, not 1 engine. Because if you have a 1-engine aircraft and it gets in trouble over the Arctic, we have a hard time. We don't have the rescue capability to go and rescue those people. So the kind of aircraft we need in the north is something that has 2 engines, that can do patrol, and that can do search and rescue. So that's very important. The other issue where we differ from the Conservatives on is they want to spend $13 billion to build mega prisons that they have in the United States of America. Now, the United States of America locks up more people than any other place in the Western world. They have 800,000 more people in jail than China. They have the most punitive sentencing in the Western world. They still have, some states have capital punishment. And of course we don't have that in Canada. And the interesting thing is that the Americans have finally discovered that having so many people in jail is bankrupting the American states. And they are now looking at Canada to follow as a model where we have a much lower crime rate and we have much lower crime rate and we have much less people in prison. Because in Canada we tend to spend more resources on deterring people from crime. When I left university, and university is the best kind of institution that we have in this country because it trains young Canadians and retrains older Canadians to upgrade their skills to go forth in the workforce and be able to contribute to society along with the community college. In this community, we have the best community college in Canada, and that's Conestoga College. And that's where we need to spend money, because what we need to do is it's a trained workforce that secures the economic future for this country. You know, we have so many, even though we have high unemployment, we have jobs that go unfilled. So we have people without jobs, and we have jobs without people. And it's through training that we match up the people with the jobs. So that's a very important issue for us. The other thing that, when I left university, by the way, and which I said is the best institution in preparing people for the future, I started an organization called Youth in Conflict with the Law. And that is still going after we started back in 1976. And what we did there was work on crime prevention. When we had young people that got in trouble, we worked with them to get them to be productive members of our society. And it worked really well. And we also set up an organization called the Crime Prevention Council of Waterloo Region, where we have the police, the courts, government organizations, non-government organizations, business groups, the whole community working together to put programs in place that will reduce crime. And that's what we see a place to invest in, not mega prisons. Now there's another issue that we strongly differentiate ourselves from the Conservatives, and that relates to corporate tax cuts. The Conservative government wants to lower the corporate tax rate from 18%. They actually lowered it to 16.5%, and they want to lower it to 15%. Now this corporate tax rate cut has to be paid for on the credit card because we don't have the money. So we have to borrow money to give corporations tax cuts, and these are rich corporations. And I'll give you an example. Oil companies and the gas companies. You know, whenever I go and fill up my car, I notice I'm paying high prices, like $1.28, which means I'm being ripped off because we've got all sorts of gas in Canada, but because of the world situation, the prices are high. Well, I figure I'm getting ripped off at the gas pump, and I'm in no mood to pay with my taxes the corporation to get a tax cut. So that's another area we differentiate ourselves from. So you can invest in jets, you can invest in corporate tax cuts, you can invest in mega prisons, which the Conservatives want to do, or you can invest in universities, training, childcare, senior care, compassionate leave, and health care, which the Liberals want to do. Now this election is going to be very, very important. And it's very important that people come out to vote. The last election, I lost the election by 17 votes. And that was in 2008. In 2008, we had the lowest turnout in the polls in the history of Canada. We had the lowest turnout. We were under 60%. You know, and what we should have had, we should have a higher turnout. We had 6,000 less people vote in this riding than the ones who voted in 2006. And we should have had more people voting because there was an increase in population from 2006 to 2008. And what we're trying to do this election is get people to vote. It's really important for people to get out to vote. And when you watch television and you see how people around the world, in Libya, in Egypt, in Tunisia, they're dying to get the right to vote. And now the best demographics we have for voting are the seniors. So you guys are doing a great job. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the younger people